What does the dot product give you? Why do we care? Well, really what the dot product is, it's an abstraction of the geometry of what we had with real numbers and the XY Cartesian plane. It's that abstraction. That's what dot products are. And in order to abstract that like that, I need to look at angles between vectors, even if I can't see them anymore. A four-dimensional vector you can't see. So here they've given you some information, and there is a formula that if you have two vectors, the cosine of the angle between those two vectors is given by u dot v, which we just talked about in number 3, divided by the magnitude of u and the magnitude of v, this product of those two, where theta is the angle between those two vectors. So this formula, that's going to go on your formula sheet. You should know it cold because it's such an important thing. You'll learn it and you'll know it, and you probably won't need it on a formula sheet. So how do I do this problem? This problem is actually harder than the next problem, but they have information they gave you in the problem. For example, they gave you that u has the magnitude 16. So this u, magnitude of u, vector u, is 16. That's one piece of information. The magnitude of v is 22. That's another piece. So I scrape those out of that information. And then they give me angle information. They say that u makes an angle of 42 degrees from the x-axis counterclockwise. Well, 45 degrees is a split, so I just slightly tossed it down to give myself a visual. This is u, and this is 42 degrees. They tell me that v has a angle of 154 degrees. So this is the picture I get for v, 154 degrees. Theta in this formula is the angle between those two vectors. Well, I know that now because if the whole thing's 154 and this part is 42, if I subtract them, the remainder, this theta, is going to be 112. So I have to draw this and I have to think about it. Sometimes the problems that we get on WebAssign are not routine. I don't think this is routine, and I like this problem. Now that I have all the information scraped out, I will assemble them into the formula. I still don't have u dot v. Well, it's u dot v I'm looking for, but I have everything else. And so I just put it on a calculator, and I solve for u dot v. U dot v is cosine of 112 times 16 times 22. When I first did this, I forgot to put my calculator in degrees. If you look at what they say here, everything's in degrees. So you can't have your calculator in radians. If you put your calculator in degrees, you get a negative 131.8615, and you see that is exactly what they have here. So your solution goes inside here. So this is an example where you're using information in the problem, scraping it out, and using this formula. So now what you need to remember is that the reason dot product is important is it gives us angles between vectors. It doesn't matter what the dimension of the vectors are. So I could have four-dimensional vectors, and I know I have a concept, I have a mathematical concept of what the angle between those vectors are, even if I can't draw them. So that's the big takeaway here. And if you're in my class, there's a Poll Everywhere quiz on that previous question.